If you've never read this book, In the Blink of an Eye by Walter Murch, be sure to get a copy. It should be recommended for any aspiring film editor. If you don't know him, Walter Murch, he's a celebrated film editor, sound designer, director, and screenwriter. He's worked on a number of notable films such as The Conversation, American Graffiti, Apocalypse Now, The Godfather Part 2 and 3, and The English Patient. Maybe you've heard of those. His book provides valuable insights not only into the actual process of editing, but also the philosophy of editing itself. It's way more than an instructional handbook. His thoughts on life, the mind, cinema, relationships between the editor and the subject matter, and an editor's methods are fascinating and extremely helpful for me as I seek to become a better filmmaker. Little sidebar, if you'd like to have some more information about the process and philosophy of film editing, take a look at the video essay From Every Frame a Painting, How an Editor Thinks and Feels. This is a video I recommend to everyone that I talk to about the process of film editing. It's great. I will drop a link to that in the description below, so check it out. One chapter from this book that I found particularly noteworthy that I wanted to talk about in this video is entitled Seeing Around the Edge of the Frame. It deals with the contrast between the relationship the editor has with the material versus the relationship that the director has with the material. So a director will always remember conditions under which a particular scene was shot. As a director looks at the footage, he or she knows what was happening beyond the edge of the frame. In other words, what it took to get the shot. So that knowledge, Murch says, is going to affect the director's feeling toward the footage. There's a quote in the book where he says, we worked like hell to get that shot. It has to be in the film. So you, the director in this case, are convinced that what you got was what you wanted. But there's a possibility that you may be forcing yourself to see it that way because it costs so much money, time, and angst to get it. Those thoughts meant a lot to me as I read them because as an independent filmmaker dealing primarily with short films, I'm the one editing my own material. So then the question arises, should the director also serve as the editor? Can a director be an effective editor of his or her own films? Several years ago, I was editing a film that I wrote and directed called Final Hit, and I struggled with the exact same thing that Murch describes in his book. There was a particular scene in the film that I just didn't want to cut because I remembered as a director how much time it took to get the shot. I thought back to the time and the effort that the cast and crew put into that particular day, and I thought that if I cut the scene, I would somehow be disrespecting their talents and abilities. And I also intended for that particular scene to be a character moment for the protagonist. It was supposed to reveal to the audience something specific about the type of person that he is. But when I was editing, I knew in my gut that the scene wasn't working, and it was a tough choice, but I did finally decide to leave it out of the film. So getting back to this original question, can a director also edit his or her own film? Many directors have. I think a director can be a very effective editor. But I've learned from reading Murch's book the importance of distancing oneself from the material after the shoot ends. There's another quote in the book where he says, between the end of shooting and before the first cut is finished, the very best thing that can happen to the director and the film is that he says goodbye to everyone and disappears for 2 weeks. Wherever he goes, he should try to think as much as possible about things that have absolutely nothing to do with the film. I've also learned the value of working with an editor who can provide more objectivity to the film and who can help make the film cut even stronger. That happened on another short film of mine years ago that originally was titled If Only, but then became titled A Changed Man. It was titled If Only in my original drafts because I wanted the film to work its way backwards. I wanted to demonstrate to the viewer all the little things that happened throughout the main character's day that led to the climactic moment. And if only one of those things had changed in the slightest of ways, then the main character could have avoided what ultimately ended up happening to her. So, it's a little bit of sliding doors, right? If only this had happened, my life would have gone this way versus that way. And then I had another editor come in and put the film together. But when I saw his initial cuts, he had structured it completely differently. It was nothing like I had intended, and I was, a little frustrated, if I'm honest. But he showed me the footage, and he talked me through his thought processes on how he could make the film stronger by making this change structurally to the narrative. And he was right, and it worked out, and it was a better film in the end. So definitely pick up a copy of this book in the blink of an eye. If you haven't already read it, please do so. It's great. I would love to hear other books about filmmaking that you've read, other resources that you've found insightful and helpful. Drop those in the comments. You can reach me and connect with me, as always, at linktree.com/Clint Till. Thanks for watching.